Good save.
And absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Nice, massive save. I would kiss you.
Yeah, I could actually kiss you.
Yeah, what you just saw then was a couple of my saves after I turned my stream off. I couldn't make a save when I was streaming. I don't know what was going on. I think my guy forgot he had hands. We'll try again next time, but that's beside the point. Right now, I want to talk about how to rush out. Look, me and you, we both face it almost every single game. Our defense usually shards, but rushing out of your box and saving one-on-ones can actually be quite easy if you do the right things. Do you have to dive with your right stick when you rush out of your box? Do you have to use triangle or Y? Do I rush out manually with my left stick? Do I have to sprint out with my R2 or my R trigger? So many questions, and I want to get into all of them. But quickly, if you want a place where you can talk pro clubs, where you can talk every single position, where you can win seasonal rewards like your own FIFA card, somewhere to upload your clips and free agency posts, hop into my Discord if you'd like, link is down below. Alright, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Okay, the first thing that I want to talk about is your virtual pro and also the controls. Firstly, with regard to my skill tree, I like to slap on acceleration and sprint speed. I like to max them both out. The only thing that I don't have is the cheater archetype because it just costs too much. But other than that, by having a lot more pace than you usually would, essentially it's going to help you to get to the ball before your opponent can ball roll you or shoot. And that's a huge advantage for you. Now, with regard to the perks, I actually don't run fast rush. Obviously that helps boost your goalkeeper's sprinting or rushing out speed. I just feel like by almost maxing out your pace like I did, that really does do the job, and you can sort of save your perk for something else like the clutch save or quick reflex. I've run this for all of FIFA 22, so I'm not capping you like a lot of other YouTubers. Okay, controls time, and there's two main buttons that you need to be focusing on your controller. And those are number one, your triangle on PlayStation or your Y on Xbox, and number two, your right stick. Now generally, those are it. You don't really manually need to be controlling your goalkeeper when you rush out with your left stick. And the same can be said with sprinting. You don't need to be using your R2 or your RT. But forget about them. Right now, I want to show you examples of how to use those two buttons that you should be using. Let's go! Now, the first important step is to recognize that it is a one-on-one, because if your defense is going to catch up with the opposition, it's usually best to stay inside of your 6-yard box. This here is a good little example. I have two defenders trying to catch up to the opposition, but they're just not going to make it. And because I've recognized this early, I'm able to set up properly in order to save a 1v1. And how do you set up properly? I'm going to get into that in a second. But firstly, I want to make it clear that a 1v1 isn't always your opposition directly in front of you. It can also be in the form of someone running on the angle towards you, like in this example here. And in any of these cases, you have to set up properly, and we're going to get into that now. Step number one is to make sure that you're in your auto position as your opponent is approaching your box. And that's so important. You're making sure that your guy is in the best possible position to start off with. He's not in a different zip code. He's making sure that he's covering both the far post and the near post. So make sure that you're using your L1 or your LB as much as possible as your opponent approaches. Now, step number two is to look at where your opposition actually is. You've realized that it's a 1v1, no one's going to catch up, and you've made up your mind that you're going to rush out. So now it's all about the right timing. It's all about coming out of your box at the right moment. And that moment is roughly around here. Literally, it is when the opponent is going to enter the box. No two situations are the same, but generally, this is the spot where it should indicate to you that you need to be coming out. And the next step, before you actually go out to close the angle, is to take a look at when the opposition is going to take a touch. The perfect, optimal, best, whatever you want to call it, time to rush out of your box is just before your opposition takes a touch. And why is that? It's usually because the opposition is trying to sprint away from the defense, and as a result, they generate a lot of heavy touches when they're dribbling. And you can take advantage of that before they can do anything. So just before the attacker takes a touch of the ball, that's the right time to come out. And as a result, they're usually not going to be able to ball roll you, they're not going to be able to shoot, and even if they do, you've usually closed the angle so much that they can't really do anything. training. So now that we have the perfect cues that tell us when to rush out, let's talk about how we actually do it and use those buttons that I mentioned earlier. Let's take this example here. I've recognized that it's a 1v1. There's definitely no way that our defense is going to catch him, and he's sprinting with his R2. He wants to get away from the defense. He's being bloody chased. When you know that it's going to be a 1v1, just like this situation here, you need to stand a little bit off of your auto position. You need to stand a little bit above it. So again, hold L1, hold your LB, but take a little step above it when you know that it's going to be a clear 1v1. Now we get to the rushing out part, and this is where you need to be holding your triangle or your Y. You don't tap it, you don't just press it, you have to hold it. And like you see in this clip here, he's just about to take a touch and he's just outside of the box, but just before he took that touch, that's when I hold my triangle and I rush out to him, and look at that. He can't even get the shot off, he can't ball roll me, he's in the mud, he's getting abused by his teammates. And also, I forgot to mention, I use my right stick to dive just before I make the save anyway, so I hold my triangle up until that point where I have to make a dive, and then I use my right stick. But holding your triangle at the right time by using all those cues that I told you, that has to be your main focus. And the right stick, it's just like saving an ordinary shot, but instead, like in this clip here, you have to hold your right stick when you're right in front of your opposition. It's a great save, you get applauded, it makes things easier when you have a good process like this to save a 1v1. So once again, I get there very quickly, he has time to do literally nothing, and you're making one-on-one situations look really easy. You're looking like professional goalkeepers. You're gonna get bare Bunda fans in the crowd wanting you. It's a great time to be alive when you're making one-on-one saves. Well, that's really the best part of the video, but what I am gonna do for the next minute, I'm gonna go through what the heck? I'm just gonna be going through some quickfire questions. I just wanna make sure that I'm answering your problems. So quickfire question number 1, do I hold triangle and dive with my right stick at the same time? Well, sort of. Like I said before, I don't want you overthinking your right stick too much. It's really the triangle that's the main part. The main focus is to hold your triangle, and the right stick is just before you dive, if that. But you cannot be letting go of your triangle early. You have to be holding it until you're very close to him. Quickfire question number 2, do I need to use my left stick to rush out? And like I said in this video, no. I really don't want you to focus on using your left stick, because if you do that, you get in the habit of manually rushing out, and you don't want to be doing that. You might have noticed in some of the clips that I've used that I am kind of using my left stick as well as my triangle. It's just a habit. End of the day, it's the triangle that takes control. I just like safeguarding it by using my left stick as well as my triangle. But yeah, it makes no difference at all. It's the triangle that's the main thing. You don't want to be using your left stick just specifically. So hopefully that clarifies things. And look, it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be as straightforward as you see in these clips here. But the bottom line is, if you get the process that I've told you about in this video correct, if you start doing the right things and putting the right steps in place, believe me, you'll become better at it than I am. Whew, I think that's about it. The main purpose of this video was to help you to rush out properly, because I know a lot of goalkeepers have questions about this sort of stuff, and that's fine. And hopefully by me telling you the perks, my skill tree, the buttons that you need to be using when you're coming out, you know, things like where your opposition is, when he's going to take a touch, that's all going to help you to become an elite goalkeeper. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. Stay safe. I'll see you soon.